There comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when a single sentence tells you everything you need to know about a man, not through a shout, not through a storm, but through the calmness of a few carefully chosen words. Words that seem harmless, almost loving, almost right, but they are not right. They are warnings dressed as affection, control wrapped in charm, and if you do not hear them for what they are, you will stay. Not because you are weak, but because you are kind enough to believe. This is for those who need to hear what no one ever dared say out loud. If a man says these 5 things to you, walk away, not tomorrow, not when it gets worse. Now, you're too sensitive. The weaponization of emotion, it often begins here, not with shouting, not with cruelty, but with this soft, surgical phrase, you're too sensitive. It doesn't come as an attack. It comes as a correction, a whispered redirection, as if your heart has malfunctioned and this man, standing before you with quiet authority, is the expert mechanic here to fix it. But listen carefully, this is not kindness. This is not understanding. It is the first incision, a subtle attempt to fracture your confidence in your own emotional compass. And the tragedy, most people don't even notice it happening, because when someone says you're too sensitive, they don't raise their voice, they lower it. They say it with a sigh, with a slight shake of the head, as if your emotions are inconvenient, childish, disproportionate to reality, and so you start to shrink. You begin to second, guess yourself. Maybe you are overreacting. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe it's your fault. And that's exactly what this phrase is meant to do. Make you question the legitimacy of your own feelings. It rewrites the story so that your pain becomes the problem, not what caused it. It makes you the issue, not the behavior that hurt you, and once that narrative is planted, it begins to spread. You become quieter, you share less, you hold your breath in conversations. You learn to suppress the very things that make you whole. Your intuition, your boundaries, your right to react. But here's the truth. You are not too sensitive. You are human. And being human means having a full, vivid emotional landscape. It means you feel deeply, think thoroughly, and speak honestly. That is not a weakness. That is strength wrapped in honesty. A man who truly values you doesn't make you feel small for feeling deeply. He leans in when you speak. He listens not just to the words, but to the silence beneath them. He does not mock your tears, nor dismiss your worries. He doesn't minimize your experiences to preserve his comfort. When someone says you're too sensitive, they are not describing you. They are revealing themselves. They are showing you their unwillingness to be held accountable. They are showing you that your emotional truth threatens the illusion they want to maintain. And if that illusion demands the death of your voice, your feeling, your presence, then it is not love, it is control. So the next time you hear those words, don't shrink, don't explain, don't plead to be understood. Walk away, not because you're too sensitive, but because you're finally strong enough to know the difference between being heard and being silenced. And that difference might just save your life. You're lucky to have me. The illusion of superiority, there is a difference between being cherished and being claimed, and you will know the difference the moment a man looks you in the eye and says, "You're lucky to have me." At first, it may seem harmless, almost flattering. A comment tossed out with a crooked smile or disguised as playful confidence. But listen, really listen, because beneath that line is not gratitude. It is a warning that he no longer sees you as an equal. That somewhere along the way, love turned into leverage, and now every gesture of affection comes with a quiet invoice attached. When a man says you're lucky to have him, he is not praising your connection. He is establishing a hierarchy, one where your value exists only in comparison to his presence, one where he becomes the prize and you the recipient. But love is not something you win. It is not a favor given. It is not a transaction to be tallied or measured. And the moment someone starts keeping score, the game is no longer love, it's control. Ask yourself, why does he need to say it? Why would someone who truly respects you need to remind you of their worth? The answer is simple, because deep down he doubts it. And instead of working on himself, instead of becoming the kind of man who inspires love, he uses manipulation to demand it. He uses your kindness as currency. He turns your loyalty into obligation. And before you even realize it, you're no longer in a relationship. You're in a performance. Constantly proving, constantly thanking, constantly earning what should have been given freely. But here's the truth. You are not lucky to have someone who makes you feel small. You are not lucky to walk on eggshells just to keep peace. You are not lucky to be reminded, again and again, that your love is a privilege he bestows upon you. No, a real man doesn't make you feel lucky to have him. He feels lucky to have you. And he shows it not through words designed to intimidate, but through actions rooted in humility. He celebrates your presence, not weaponizes it. He honors your strength, not competes with it. He does not sit on a throne and expect you to kneel. He walks beside you, equal in step, equal in soul. So if a man ever tells you you're lucky to have me, pause. Not because it's true, but because it's a signal that you are being emotionally taxed for the right to stay. And no heart, no matter how loving, should ever have to pay to be seen. You are not lucky to be loved. You are worthy of it. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to stay, not because you've lost something, but because you've finally remembered what you were worth all along. No one else would put up with you. The subtle art of emotional blackmail, there's a kind of cruelty that doesn't scream. It whispers, it smiles, it wears the tone of concern, even love, and it disguises itself in a sentence like this: no one else would put up with you. At first, it stuns you, not because you believe it, but because you don't expect it. It doesn't sound like anger. It doesn't sound like hatred. It sounds like a statement, cold, calculated, delivered with just enough calm to make you doubt your own outrage. And that's exactly the point. This phrase isn't said to argue, it's said to control, to make you feel small enough to stay. When a man tells you that no one else would tolerate you, he isn't giving feedback. He's applying pressure. Quiet pressure, the kind that wraps itself around your self-worth and slowly begins to choke it. Suddenly, you're not thinking about what you deserve. You're thinking about what you might lose. You start believing that maybe you're difficult. Maybe you're too emotional, too complicated, too hard to love, and that is the goal. Because once you believe that you're the problem, you'll stop noticing how much you're actually being hurt. This is emotional blackmail. Not loud or explosive, but strategic. It's a way of keeping you bound, not by love, but by fear. The fear that if you leave, no one else will come, that your imperfections make you unlovable, that this man, despite his coldness, is somehow your last chance. But listen carefully. Anyone who convinces you that you are hard to love does not love you right, because love never threatens. Love never bargains with your value. It holds you gently, not hostage. A healthy man doesn't need to scare you into staying. He doesn't need to remind you of your flaws just to inflate his own importance. A healthy man sees your struggles and stands beside you. He doesn't weaponize your pain. He protects it. He doesn't frame himself as the only one who could put up with you. Instead, he reminds you that you're not a burden, you're a blessing. And being with you is not tolerance, it's a choice. So if you ever hear the words, no one else would put up with you, don't take it as truth. Take it as a warning. A flashing sign that this relationship is built not on love, but on dependency. And dependency is not romance. It's a cage. You are not meant to be put up with. You are meant to be met, understood, and embraced. Not despite who you are, but because of it. And if someone can't do that, then it's not your job to stay. It's your right to walk away, with your dignity intact and your heart unchained. You're overthinking everything. When intuition is silenced, there's a certain kind of silence that doesn't come from peace. It comes from being told too many times that your thoughts are too much, that your mind is too busy, your questions too intense, your reflections too deep, and it usually starts with a phrase that seems small but carries the weight of dismissal. You're overthinking everything. It sounds harmless, almost caring, like someone trying to pull you back from the edge of your own mind. But look closer and you'll see the truth. This isn't about saving you from overthinking. It's about stopping you from thinking at all. When a man tells you this, especially in response to something you've noticed, something you've questioned, something you feel in your gut, he's not calming your mind. He's silencing your intuition. He's asking you not to trust the very voice that has always protected you. Because if you stop thinking, if you start doubting your own thoughts, then he can shape the reality for both of you. Suddenly, it's not his behavior that needs questioning. It's your perception. And once that happens, you begin to let things slide. You ignore the discomfort. You swallow the confusion. You start convincing yourself that maybe, just maybe, you are overreacting. But let's make something clear. Thoughtfulness is not a flaw. Emotional awareness is not a weakness. To feel deeply, to notice inconsistencies, to connect dots others overlook, that is not a defect. That is intelligence. That is intuition. That is the strength of a mind that sees beyond the surface and senses when something is off. And it should never, ever be treated as a problem. A man who genuinely respects you will never make you feel ashamed for thinking deeply. He will lean into your questions, not retreat from them. He will value your insights because he knows that love is not built on silence. It's built on understanding. But when someone says you're overthinking everything, what they often mean is, I don't want to be questioned. What they mean is, let it go, even if it hurts. What they mean is, accept what I do without asking why. And that is not love, that is a quiet form of control, the kind that doesn't break you all at once. It wears you down until your silence feels safer than your truth. So hear me now. Do not let anyone shame you for thinking, feeling, or wondering. Do not let anyone turn your intelligence into insecurity. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to express what doesn't sit right. You are allowed to trust yourself, because the moment you stop doing that, you hand someone else the pen to write your story, and your story, your truth, is far too sacred to be edited by someone who fears your voice. You're nothing without me, the final mask of control. There is no love in the sentence. You're nothing without me. No care, no warmth, no grace. It is not a phrase of partnership. It is a declaration of dominance, a final mask dropped. A man who speaks these words is not reaching out in love. He is staking a claim not on your heart but on your identity. He wants you to believe that your worth is a borrowed thing, that without him you would disappear, that without his approval you would unravel. But that is not love. That is a quiet kind of theft, the slow, deliberate stealing of your sense of self. When someone says you're nothing without me, they are not just attacking your pride. They are attempting to rewrite your entire narrative. They want you to forget who you were before they came, the strength, the laughter, the independence, the quiet resilience that carried you through years they never witnessed. They want to shrink you down to a version of yourself that can only breathe in their shadow, and over time, if you're not careful, you start to believe it. You begin to hesitate before making decisions. You question your own voice. You look in the mirror and see someone who can't stand alone. That is the goal. But here's the truth they don't want you to remember. You were someone before they arrived, and you will be someone long after they're gone. You are not an extension of anyone. You are not a reflection of someone else's approval. Your value is not determined by who stays or who leaves. Your worth is not given to you. It was born in you, and any man who cannot recognize that is not protecting you. He is weakening you, because real love does not strip you of your power. It amplifies it. It does not chain you to fear. It gives you wings. Walk freely, even if it means walking away. The man who says you're nothing without me has already shown you who he is. He does not want to build a life with you. He wants to be the reason you think you have one. That is not partnership. That is possession. And no matter how long you've been together, no matter how deeply your lives are entangled, You must understand this. No one who truly loves you will ever need to convince you that you're worthless without them, because someone who truly loves you will make sure you never forget your worth, even in moments when you do. So if you ever hear those words, "You're nothing without me," let them be the last thing you hear from him, not because they broke you, but because they woke you up. That sentence is not your ending, it's your beginning, the start of a life reclaimed, the start of a voice remembered, the start of a woman who knows, beyond all doubt, she was always everything all along.